Welcome back. We're here at Cool Club's headquarters here in Scottsdale, and today we're very lucky to have Dr. Tom Mase, our resident scientist R&D specialist. Welcome. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Jack. And Tom is fine. We don't need to be formal around here.
Perfect. It keeps me safe.
Yeah.
The real purpose of this is you're going to be so prevalent for us going forward with our intentions at the company of helping people understand how detailed and technical we are. I want to give people an introduction on you, your background, and everything that you've done leading up to kind of be able to impart your knowledge on and push our business forward. So can you just tell everyone a bit about your schooling background, the things that you've learned, what you've been into?
Certainly. And to go way back, I mean, golf has been a thread throughout my life, and we'll probably get to playing after that. But after I talk about this, but the schooling is I'm an engineer. Got a bachelor's degree from Michigan State University and a master's and PhD from Cal Berkeley, and then from there did a little work in the auto industry, General Motors, and then the golf bug caught me, and I just couldn't resist it. So for all those for 20 plus years, I've worked with specializing in doing golf research, and worked for Callaway full time, Cushnet, Cobra a while full time, and then consulted with a variety of companies. And it's a great opportunity for me to use my technical ability with the game I love, and it's great to try to really dig into the muck to figure out what's going on. That's the thing that I like to do best.
And it's such an imperfect sport. It's great to have you with us because we've got all this imperfect data and we need some translations. And you are our guy right now, which is awesome.
Well, it's imperfect sport, and we always say in the projects, many of the project I work on, it's like, oh, if it just wasn't having the people in there to play the game, it would be easy to do the R&D.
Yeah, and we've got those tools now. So let's go back a bit and touch on when did you start playing golf? Kind of what level did you get to?
I started golf early, like 10 or 11 years old, and right from the beginning played in tournaments and competitive golf. Played through high school and played in college as well. Started out at University of Texas for a couple years. Then I found engineering, and my focus kind of went to that. So I finished up at Michigan State and played on the team there. My final year I was co-captain with Rick Grover, and then all through those years, amateur tournaments in the summer and things like that. The probably my pinnacles of playing would be qualified for the U.S. Amateur when it was started as match play.
Awesome.
Made it to the second round for U.S. Open when I was 19, and actually shot under par, but was the first alternate, unfortunately. So.
Oh.
So it's been I've played golf and understand golf, understand how challenging it is, and through all those years understand how much the equipment has evolved and made a difference in the game.
Having that application of like, I think it's such a disparity with a guy with your intelligence and background on study, having all that the knowledge there, and having none of the the practical base of it, but you've got both. So I think that's the winner for us right here. That's going to be great. So let's touch on what with us specifically. You said you've worked with Callaway. What kind of things have you done with them, and is what we do in any different?
I think that most of the things that I do are like trying to get down to the basics of physics and understand what's going on. And with Callaway, that was in the 90s. It was early on, and it was a time when the golf industry was changing, and I was, you know, people with PhDs in mechanical engineering weren't in the golf industry, and it took a while. The tide had changed, but it took a while for us to say, hey, you need to measure where the center of gravity is on golf club heads, because that's a physics basic that we need to know. So we were working on measuring those things, things beyond the swing weight and the loft and lie, and applying it towards simulation. In the auto industry, I worked with crash worthiness, and there's a program that does the crash cars together for engineers to study. And so I brought that into the golf industry, because basically we've got a club crashing with a ball, and that simulation side of things is very prevalent today as well.
Did you work predominantly with irons or woods or a bit of everything?
Everything, for the most part, and at that time, you know, Callaway was not the R&D powerhouse they are now.
What do you remember? Do you remember the products that are in the works?
Yeah, it was. I was there for titanium, the very first titanium, and remember that we save the weight, and then it's like, okay, where are we going to put the weight?
Right.
And where are we going to try to get the center of gravity? And at that time, the CAD programs that designers design the clubs with weren't as efficient as they are now, and so it was great to see the industry in a changing time period, and where we're at now is really pretty good for the golfers, I think.
Lots of material changes going on. That whole conversation about where you're placing weight, you know, with stealth snoof face and all that kind of stuff, really interesting.
That's exactly right, and that's why if you have old equipment that's 4 or 5 years old, you should look into the new stuff, because even now, every year, the engineers are getting better and better at placing things and understanding how to make these things.
Awesome. Similar job with Acushnet Cobra?
Acushnet Cobra was similar, and much more in the analysis side there, because that was getting in the wheelhouse of the golf companies at that time. But yes, pretty much the simulation and general R&D stuff.
Perfect. And then we can touch on it. I know we can't talk about everything, but you've also done a little bit of work with the USGA.
That's true. This past year, I think it was about a year ago, I was asked to do a tee height study for them, and that's been published, I think, in their on the website out there somewhere, and another small little project as well. And they're fun to work with, because they're smart guys and looking out after the game.
Perfect, cool. That gives us a little bit of background, and now moving forward, I've been super general. You know, you're our R&D specialist. Tell everyone a little bit about some of the day-to-day things, the jobs that our CEO Mark has put you on.
Certainly, and the first thing to point out is I've known Mark for 20 years, so it's a long relationship. And back in his days where he had hot sticks, I worked with him quite a bit. And coming forward, it's very nice for me to have access to great R&D facilities here, and to work on the projects. Not quite like an OEM, but pretty darn close, and we can do a lot of things, like the shaft design, coming up with the measurement of the shafts and what's important for that. Also working on the swing weights in fitting, to try to really figure out, as a fitter, you know, builds a club, then they need to know, can the swing weight be made? And so we want to be more predictive with that. And of course, swing weight is just basically physics and all the components that are in there. And also the robot testing and testing. There's great access here. It's fun for a person like me to hang around, and I like to call myself a friend of Cool Clubs, because it's like having a R&D facility to hang out with. So there's a lot of things that I'd like to try here.
Well, I really appreciate that statement. I mean, that really is the story that we're trying to tell right now. I think a lot of our people in the golf industry, they have experienced club fittings and they get the end result. And ultimately, that's really all we care about, is these guys playing better golf. But there's so much that goes into it, and I think it's so interesting. I'm fascinated by the information that you've got locked in the box up there, that hopefully we can squeeze a little bit of that juice into some of the stuff that we do. And really push the industry forward. Some of the numbers that you touched on, I mean, the S3 numbers, I know you're doing a lot of math back of house. We're excited to hopefully release potentially a number that can change the industry in terms of shaft flex. So stay tuned on that. And giving some guys, I just want to drop some context on the swing weight calculator, is the fact that, you know, like you said, it is just raw physics. People want a certain swing weight, and we're going to probably help them understand that there's only so much that's achievable with some components. Once there is some set rules in play, there's only so far you can take those numbers. And in touching on the robot again, I mean, you've seen the documents that we've got. I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. There's 10,000 points of data or more, right? And you're the unfortunate guy, or fortunate, whichever way you look at it, to sift through that and find stuff that makes it relative to playing golf. So we really appreciate you, and we're super excited to have you back in and talk about the data that we're actually producing. But I think it's great that people know who you are and you feel comfortable in here. So thank you so much for coming out, and we look forward to talking further.
It's a pleasure to be here. Great talking to you, Jack, and looking forward to the next years. It's going to be great.
Yeah, me too. Thanks again.